What is up, everybody? You're listening to episode 84 of SFF Addicts. I'm your host, Adrian M. Gibson, and welcome to your weekly dive into the world of science fiction, fantasy, and writing craft. Joining me, as always, my co-host, the Chewie to my Han Solo, the Joker to my Commander Shepard, MJ Kuhn. How's it going, MJ?
Hello. I am doing lovely. How are you?
Good. We got some good pregame chat going on with our guest today. But before we introduce them, I'm going to pimp MJ's work a little bit. If you want to get Among Thieves in its thick-ass sequel, Thick as Thieves, you can go support MJ and her work for some fun heists and hatchets and whores, even though that's not an H word and all that stuff, because we're a writing podcast. And you're going to love it. And MJ's awesome. So go pick it up, complete duology, and you're going to have a fun-ass time. And also, you can now go check out the announcement for my debut novel, Mushroom Blues, which was just announced. When this episode goes live, it'll be the week prior, but I'll also be putting out a little announcement clip on the podcast feed, so all of you have that to go check out. But yeah, as well, a quick note for listeners, the official SFF Addicts Patreon and merch store are live, so check the links in the description to support what we do here. Also, don't forget to rate and review the podcast on your favorite podcast app, and subscribe to the FanFiAddict YouTube channel, where this and every other episode of the show is available in full video. And now, welcoming today's two illustrious shithead guests, these beautiful boys, here to get rambunctious with us for one last time in 2023. Dearest friends of the SFF Addicts podcast, Ryan Cahill and Ronnie Virdi. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic, especially after that pregame chatter.
When you
So
said
yeah, we're already going off the rails. I'm stoked.
when you said MJ was the Chewie to your Han Solo, I thought you said Chewie Tomato.
That's what I thought you said. That's why I was laughing. I was like,
And now my Chewie Tomato, MJ.
For anyone watching video, Ryan just gave an accidental thumbs up about MJ being a chewy tomato.
Yum!
Watch this.
Is that a way of describing like how cute somebody is? Like, you're such a chewy tomato.
I feel like a tomato being chewy sounds unpleasant.
Yeah.
I don't think that's like a trait I normally associate with a really good tomato.
You're like an overripe tomato. Enjoy.
I think
The worst.
we're gonna work on your flirting game
really
when
weird.
we're out there.
I don't know if I'm comfortable right now.
I'm having a great time. But to get started, Ryan and Ronnie, for anyone who's not familiar with you and your work, can you tell them a bit about yourselves? We'll start with you, Ryan.
Oh, okay. In that case, yeah. So I write as R.R. Virdi. I'm predominantly known for urban fantasy stuff. I began in 2013 with The Grave Report, which is an ongoing paranormal investigator series that's quite often been comped to Quantum Leap meets the Dresden Files. And most recently, I released an epic heroic fantasy called The First Binding from Tor Books and Go Lengths, respectively, in the UK. The second book, The Doors of Midnight, will be out next year.
And Ryan?
That was such a immediate stop. I thought there was more to the sentence.
Wait,
Oh, no, yeah, sorry. I didn't want to take up too much time doing that.
I always stumble over that name. I'm always Golansky.
I once called them Golanchi because I was just making a joke. I'm like, the CZ has to be like CHE. They did not like that.
I genuinely, I don't understand. It's like, I used this the other day. It's like when you see the word could and you're like, COULD. Cold? Cooled? How do you pronounce this word?
Cold.
Yeah, cooled. But yeah, so my name is Ryan Cahill. I feel like I am way less prepared for this than Ronnie is, even though I've been asked the question about 9 million times. So I write predominantly, almost actually completely epic fantasy at the minute anyway. So I have one published series, The Bent and the Broken. A lot of those covers are behind me on the wall here because I thought that was cool. And you know what? I was right. It is very cool. I like seeing it every day.
It is.
So that's basically all I have to say because I'm going to talk too much as is.
Short and sweet. There you go. To the point.
I'm neither short nor sweet.
Ryan,
you are not short. You were like 6'74". You made me feel small at Dragon Con, and I am 6 foot.
74.
No, he's tall.
So
I'm pretty sure with those
You're like
measurements.
6'4", right?
Ryan, aren't you one of the shortest of like the tall group? There's like Stephen Arion. There's who
How
else?
tall are
There's
those
Dave
motherfuckers?
Ragg.
One of the shortest is a weird way of putting it, but there are some
shortest of the
crazy tall dudes in
Justin Lee Anderson
in fantasy in
super
general.
tall as well.
But if Ian Green is like 6'7", Dave Ragg is 6'6".
That's
Justin
when we
Lee
get illegal.
Anderson,
We have to just stop authors getting that
I think
tall.
Justin is actually shorter than me. Justin shortened me by like this much.
It's another reason for me to keep working out. I can't be the biggest this way. It's just like.
And then you have Jay Christoph, I think, is 6'7" as well.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there's a lot of tall dudes.
They literally wasted potential. I mean, they could have been NBA stars, but okay.
We could create an all-alter basketball team.
Yes.
There should be like a fantasy all-star team.
There absolutely should. And you guys would probably make more than fantasy writers do in general. I mean, sports money is another kind of money.
Not being writers.
We're like the lowest paid of the arts, aren't we? Like if you actually break it down, because music is the highest.
Tattooing pays really well.
Yeah, it does. Actually, I met a tattoo artist. It's going to get really weird, but on the way to New York Comic Con, who is switching, taking his art to graphic novels, which I always thought was kind of cool how artists can transition mediums. Yeah,
see, it is weird though, because like when you say like the lowest paid of the arts, I think when you go to the middle ground and stuff, it's not the case. So like for instance, back home, I used to play music, and I did a thumbs up again. God damn it!
Anytime you
really
just like, show your thumb,
anytime my thumb appears. But yeah, like back home, I played music all the time, and a lot of my friends are musicians or professional musicians. And there was a big difference when I came into books, and we were talking about it, and they're trying to make a career out of it, and how much easier it is for me than them. Not easier in terms of breaking in, or easier in terms of actually like getting known and selling things, but the fact that I have a physical product to sell. So when they try to advertise their music, Spotify pay them like 0.00001 cent a stream. Whereas I can sell a book, and I can advertise knowing that I have like a specific return of an investment that I'm looking for. So it's, if you can be business minded and think about it as a career and being a publisher yourself, it is actually a far more structured way of earning money. Whereas I think in the likes of music and other stuff, you are very much just relying on something randomly happening.
Well, I think it also depends where you are. Because in America, I know a lot, specifically in the South, who are also church musicians. Like while you're gigging and doing they make a lot of money. Those mega churches, and you can get into the ethics of it, but they make a ridiculous amount of money.
You see the way you said that is that while you're gigging, you do this to earn money.
Yeah, but it's still within their
that's the same
musical field.
Thing, like
it's the same as writers though. Like so, there's writers who might want to be a genre fiction author or want to be something like that, and they subsidize their income with ghostwriting and other things that it's still, to some people have it their own way, but I know people who've done it and they're like I don't feel like I'm doing the thing that I wanted to do. I'm just doing what keeps food on the table. So it is interesting. Right. Like when you go to those middle grounds, it's mostly people just grinding hard. And
but that's like the same in every field. It's grinding until you make it to the top.
Yeah.
Have you been an exotic dancer in your past life, Ronnie?
What?
That's most of the work. Just grinding all day long.
No. There you go.
He's a stripper.
That is another way to make money.
That is
welcome to the R.R. Virdi School of Grinding.
Hi, Tor.
Dude.
It's gonna go well.
Hi, Tor. No. I do think that it's easier to pursue a career in writing and also have a day job than it is to do a lot of
Oh, absolutely. That one, yes.
Because it's like I can just kind of make my own writing schedule. I don't have to do gigging. I don't have to go to auditions, right? Like the stuff that a lot of other arts do have to do. So I think in that regard, we get a little advantage there.
I think everything has its pros and cons. It just depends on the person. But like I think in general with the arts, like it's like that. You look at the higher paid people always talk about it being the top 1%, but I feel like in writing it is different. Like there's a top 1% who earn crazy money, but the next 10% down do pretty damn well.
Yeah, you can make a living in that bracket. Yeah,
there's a bit more of a wider field of people who can live off it. Whereas a lot of the musicians that I know, there's like they earn absolutely nothing. And then you get to the top and they earn mega crazy
everything.
money.
Yeah, and that's where the discrepancy becomes like the worst or the best, depending on where you are. I guess if you're at the top, you probably don't complain about it. But like in the world, it is probably musicians are number one, and then actors or maybe athletes are up there too. Because like Ronaldo and some of those
actors might be like above musicians.
But like it's hard to as well because
I'm trying to think of who
wrong
billionaires now, because like there's more music billionaires I think than actor. Actually, is there an actor billionaire? Now that I think about it, that made it from acting. That's hard because I know there's musician billionaires like Jay-Z's up there.
Sure. Like I could imagine like Robert Downey Jr. or like Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise, I could believe because he grossed $1 billion off of Maverick, and that was just because it's Tom Cruise. Like he's like the last great movie star. If you encapsulate what it means to be a movie star, because now more people are becoming IP stars. than movie stars. Like you're a Marvel star.
If I'm thinking about it, if you tried to name off like authors who had hundreds of millions, okay, I think I'd probably stop reasonably soon. I could be totally wrong. But then you go to musicians and actors, I could sit here all day and name off people with, $20 million houses and yachts.
Oh, yeah.
So I think maybe that field at the top is very small. Like you have the mega, like Brandon Sanderson and Stephen King kind of money, and I think J.K. Rowling's
George R. R. Martin, because he moved to producing, and that makes money. When you start producing stuff, wow.
But
what was our topic?
Speaking of all these millions,
what is our topic? Where did this even? Where did any of this?
We're going free flow. We're going free flow today.
What are we?
We're just vibing.
Why am I here?
I asked you to introduce yourselves. And transition.
Yeah, you did.
So today's going to be a little bit more freeform, as you can see already. But I just have a handful of questions. Nothing.
Oh, there's questions.
Or anything.
That helps.
But I just want to know how you guys are doing. Like, how's your year been overall? Ronnie?
Pretty good. We've talked behind the scenes too. Like, I'm doing pretty all right. I got book 2 finally through all the publishing rigmarole because of delays and the industry and paper crisis and blah, 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 blah. For a book, I think I turned the draft in like before book 1 was even out. And past that, I've just been grinding on a lot of private projects, which I think you and I have talked about. And I actually sent you some. Wait, what did you hear?
Just filled in. Just been grinding on a lot of private parts, and
projects.
I know you said projects. I know you said projects, but there's like this
you're gonna be
in my brain that catches things that aren't innuendos.
For like me getting an OnlyFans. I swear to God, like after this episode, there's just gonna be like a running joke.
Oh, it's gonna be like everyone's gonna be like, bring the smolder, bring the grind.
There, see, not even one episode without smolder. Everywhere I go,
Ronnie's always on my mind.
At this point,
I still have Ronnie's grind school in my head. I can't get
like if you want that as a blurb, Ronnie, say bring the smolder, bring the grind. Ronnie's always on my mind. That can
you'll give me that blurb from Cahill.
I'll endorse it.
Yeah.
So Ryan approves this message,
and then you do the thumbs up, and then your screen does the thing.
Exactly.
Oh God.
Ooh, baby.
That's
Ronnie,
the picture on the blurb for you, Ronnie.
Back up,
Ronnie. Keep going, bud.
What did oh God, I can't. How do I go back to I left off at and then that turned into that. I was skipping over.
You were grinding on
so
private
you've been
projects.
working through book 2.
Yeah, that's turned in. That's coming out next summer or whenever Tor decides. I think it's summer, and yeah, I'm actually just writing stuff right now to hopefully. And this is stuff that I talked with Ryan about. I want to do something sweet for all my fans and supporters, and I'm working on a series of novellas that I'm going to compile and make it as a reader magnet giveaway. Got the cover being created right now by the same artist who does principally the series, and then I'm going to go back to Ryan and ask him new marketing stuff because I used to be indie, and then I went on this whole journey traditional, and the indie sphere has changed in terms of Amazon marketing, algorithms, Facebook ads, and now I feel old and I have to start all over, even though I'm not old, but I feel like it because like a year out of indie with trends and things changing, it can be nuts readjusting. Recently published my first short comic, which went really well, and currently have like 4 or 5 pitches that are being discussed for acquisitions out. No clue what's going to happen with those, and my terrifying fear is that all 5 get said yes to next year, and then I'm committed to writing all 5, and it's like, oh,
I feel like that's a good problem to have, though.
Yeah, but between also I have to write book 3, which is going to be like another 350 to 400,000 word monster, and I'm writing Graves 4, and
there's something so weird about those longer books. Like, I mean, like I know writing it myself, like I'm writing all this and I see people publishing books and I feel like I'm writing slow. Whereas the reality is I've written more words than they have.
Yes.
But I'm not publishing.
But you're not seeing the tangible, the book's out. Because part of me was like, man, if I was writing a 120K fantasy, plus you could sort of, once it's done, it's done. Isn't there like that mental tick in your head? If you were doing those books. Man, you'd be motoring through even more of them than if I did
100K books, I'd have published 10 books in the last 2.5 years.
I honestly think it could have been more because it has to be the size of the story and you necessitating like what you have to complete to finish that is not as taxing. Because I get to say that because I've done across the ranges. I've published everything from short stories to 66K novel, 90, 110, 20, 180, 350, 450K was the draft for book 2 originally for Tales of Tremaine, comics, and multiple mediums, where I'm like, it's still easier to do more shorter books that can maybe even go larger than one large book, if that makes sense. Like, I think both Tremaine books, original drafts, like 800,000 words, but they had to be 2 complete stories that build off of each other. But like, let's say I'm doing urban fantasy or detectives, which kind of goes back to what you brought up earlier, Ryan, about like the richest authors and stuff. A lot of them are mystery thriller writers. But if you look at the stories, they're serialized as like a case of the week, which also frees up some mental stuff if you don't have a big series meta payoff you have to do. Like J.D. Robb, which is Nora Roberts, her thriller pen name, or Jack Reacher, the Lee Child books. It's just new mystery, new location, new people to punch. And it's fun and formulaic, and people like that, but you don't have to do, and he must save the world in 10 books, and everything must tie up nice. So he could just be on book 47, and new city, new problem, new guys to punch. And but that kind of structure, like in your mind, makes it kind of easier to write those books.
Yeah.
Because a lot of urban fantasy does that, which is one of its appeals, right? It's like a serialized monster of the week for some of them.
You're not on book 4 with like 500 plus named characters, 17 points of view, 9 distinct storylines, and all of them have to thread nicely to each other, while remembering what conversations each of the 400 named characters have had, and make sure they don't have those conversations again. And simple
or
stuff,
know something
basically.
they shouldn't know, or forget something they should know.
Oh my god!
Or the mythology research. The worst thing I ever did was create a functional economy and trade system in my world, because I have an Excel sheet with all the money conversions and valuations of metal between countries that you haven't even seen yet. And then, like, when I give Ari money, it has to be used. And my editors originally for book 2 were doing parts like, can you remove these chapters? I'm like, he spends money in those chapters. Like when he leaves 30 chapters later, like that, I have to keep track of that. I'm like, where does that money magically go now that he's like,
you're like, don't make me do more math.
It's not even that. I'm like, you fundamentally just,
I've already done so much.
You'll destroy the story if I do this, because that money has to go away because he's broke. What he does he do a chapter where he goes out and like it's Hangover the movie, he just blows it all in one night? Like, no.
He wakes up in a trunk of a carriage, doesn't know what the fuck has happened.
I think you might benefit from the rule that I call the fuck that rule. All right, so basically when I'm going through parts of the story, right, and I come up with something cool, and I'm like, that would be, no, fuck that. Because I look at it and I think, I am about to create an incredibly complicated thing for me that has little to no payback later on. So like, it's cool for like, obviously intricacy and depth, and Sanderson does it with crazy stuff. But like, I look at stuff and I looked at like currency, and I was like, you know what? I just genuinely don't have that much of an interest in going deep dive into the currency, because I have all this other cool shit to do. And if I do it, it is going to fucking wreck my head in about 4 books time. And I just literally have the fuck that rule. I take it, I copy it, I paste it into something else. And I'm like, if I have more time on a different project, that is cool. But I'm like, right now, I got so much shit to deal with, fuck that.
For me, sadly, it is part of it. And it comes back later and later. And it has worked out. So plus, again, I get to essentially do the fuck that, but to other people. And I go, no, I'm not going to get fuck that. Which also works.
The reverse fuck that rule.
The reverse fuck that,
It's the same rule. Because like, I sit there, like, I could also justify all these things. I could be like, like in like 4 books time, like this is going to be a major part. And I'm like, but I have like 14 other major parts. I need to like trim what my brain has to retain.
Yes.
Because all these things that could be really cool. I was like, but fuck, it will kill me.
Fuck that.
But that's my argument of, if you were writing other books, I think you're selling yourself short, and you might be able to get even more out than just the raw word count equivalent. Because, again, genre too, some things simplify it, like contemporary, right? If you're writing in a world where you don't have to explain the world building, how many more words is that gone that could go to the plot, and just ease of that machine just going like, I don't need to describe this. People know what this is. People know what a fucking street is and a street lamp or whatever. And you just move on. And that just doesn't tire you down, and you can get to the next book. Because after having just written my first thriller, that was like, it sounds very weird, but it was so much easier to write because of, I guess, all the stuff you take for granted once you start doing fantasy and sci-fi, you can sort of strip that away, and it was just so much more plot oriented. And I didn't have to rely on world building tricks or any of that. I was just writing so much more naturally. It felt like a really stripped down, like reduced way of telling a story in a good way.
That's probably why most thrillers are like 70 to 90K.
Yeah.
As well. Because there's like, it's in the real world. Like, you don't have to spend so much time like world building and everything like that.
everything like that, and points of view. I think people don't really get that. They don't like oh, you know, why how's your book so long? I was like, because length of book is directly proportional to the number of points of view. So if you're like, you will always increase when you have more POVs, like always. So like if you have a 2 POV
How many POVs were in the last book, Ryan, of War and Ruin?
The exhale right there too.
I'm pretty sure we touched double digits. No, we definitely did. So there's probably like 7 or 8 very major ones. And then there's other ones that kind of just come in. Like there's the last 5 chapters are 5 different POVs. 2 of them from POVs we've not seen before. But we've seen the character. It's just not their points of view. But as soon as you start doing that, you add depth and you add so much other stuff, and it's incredible. But also it will increase the length of your book if you're really telling the story through their eyes.
What have been some other like highlights and challenges that you've experienced this year? Personally, you got married, so congrats on that.
I don't know if that's a challenge.
How's it been?
I was going to say, I feel like that's a highlight, not a challenge. Let's clarify.
Both. It's both a highlight and a challenge.
I'm really worried about your marriage, man, Adrian.
It's only a challenge when she makes him go hiking. When he's
I said Adrian.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Mine?
Yeah. It's a challenge.
I said it's a highlight and a challenge.
Okay.
No. It's more my kids than the marriage. The marriage is great. The kids are.
This is going to turn into a therapy session.
I hope when they grow up, they don't watch this show.
Yeah.
Oh, they know how much of a challenge they are.
Well, at least they're self-aware.
No, he's like 3 and like 9 months.
I'm a challenge.
Daddy loves you.
Yeah,
I love you.
But like I recently said on Twitter that it's like, you know, I feel like I'm just constantly telling people, hey, I'm sorry I haven't gotten back to you. Life's been really busy, and I've kind of been saying that for like 2 years now because it's just what happens. Like there's just so much, and it like I had to take the sign up for my my advanced reader team off my newsletter because like I was at a stage where I was getting like probably like just short of 100 emails a week. And then there's like messages on all these social media platforms I can't keep up with. And like I end up like 2 come up and they're like really long response ones. And I'm like, okay, I need to respond to that, but it's going to take me 20 minutes to respond to it. But I'm writing right now and I need to write, and then I have to go do this and do that. So I look at it and I go, okay, I'm going to respond to that. And then 5 days passes. I come back and I have like 8 new messages. That one's buried back now. And I just like this anxiety kicks in and I'm just like, nobody's getting a response. Sorry. And it's just like, that's just brain just shuts down. And so I think
too, man. Like,
but it's one of those where I think it hasn't really gone on top of me as much until this year. I think 2023 has been a great year, but been a tough year. So like this year, I launched A War and Ruin, which is 437,000 words. I launched The Ice, which is 55,000 words, and I've written the short story, which is about 5,000 words, which is in the Advent of Winter calendar, and I'm 60,000 words into book 4. So there's been a lot of writing going on, and I just got a contract for a really cool thing, which I can't talk about yet, which would be really, really nice. So there's a lot of that going on, but like I got married and I was away for 6 weeks when that happened. It was amazing. It's just when and this is where we talked about it before we came on this, about like the idea of MJ was saying how I'm only addicted to good things like working and the gym. And, you know, I feel like that's kind of hits with me too. And, you know, the problem with that mindset is when something amazing happens, like you get married, you spend 6 weeks away, my brain, a part of my brain just goes 6 weeks without writing. And, you know, that's not where my head should be, but it is. So I had 6 weeks doing that. Then I went over to the UK and the US, which was another like 4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks. Great. It was like a little tour. It was great for work. I met a lot of people. I met Ronnie.
Ronnie in Atlanta.
Yeah. And it's amazing. But now that's 10 weeks without structured work. And now my parents and my family are coming over for like all of December and into January. And that's like another like 5 weeks. So in general, on a schedule where I'm writing 600,000 to 700,000 words a year and publishing in those years, I've now just lost 3 months of writing. So at the same time, we're like renovating half the stuff for the house. We've got the whole house was like scaffolded and all new windows. And I told you I'm doing the stairs outside. And so there's a lot of stuff. And sometimes I sit there and I'm just like, I'm going to just sit in a dark room. Just stare at the roof and just breathe for a minute. So it's one of those where it's been a very challenging year. Just trying to keep that productivity, because I think it's, one of the hardest things with writing is consistency. For most people, I know for me it is, in that like I can be extremely consistent, but I have to make myself. And
make yourself,
people have this people have this view is that like, oh, if writing's tough, you shouldn't do it. Like it should just flow. And I'm like, that is it's a fantastic outlook. I that's great. But when it's your career, you don't have that choice. Like I need to publish consistently. So even when I sit there and it comes out like pulling glass from your veins, you need to do it. So like I was sitting here
over motivation.
But that's it. Like 7 days a week. When I did War and Ruin, I wrote 180,000 words in 50 days. And I had to just sit there and just write 3,000 to 4,000 words every day, even on the days where it took me 10 hours. On the days where like I just could not get the words. I just sat at the computer. Like I would get up, go to the gym, come back, sit at the computer, stay up till 2 a.m. And there'd be days where I'd stay up till like 2 a.m. and I would have like 1,000 words, and then I'd have to like beat myself and go up the next day and write 4.5. And it was just one of those, like, even when you're not in the mood, even when there's no flow, when there's nothing, you show up. Any other job, you just show up. But that's it exactly. And it's one of those where I think, like any major like artistic field or any sport or anything, it's always dominated by people who show up. Like you go to Kobe Bryant, you go Michael Jordan, anyone like that, like they're the best because they showed up every day, regardless of what it was, and they just did it every day. So
yeah, that's something that MJ and I have been talking about a lot, because I like how you frame it. You're always like butt in seat, just like put your ass in the chair. So at the very least, you've kind of you've triggered something in your brain that says like, okay, we are in a different mindset. We are in this mode where at the very least you're in front of the computer, you're in front of whatever, like your pen and paper, and you fucking do something.
Man, there's a million reasons why you can't do something, or a million excuses to why you can't do something. And people get really sensitive about the word excuses. And that's not me like saying to someone else, like, you're not doing it right. Like for the last 2 weeks, I normally write about 12 to 15,000 words a week, pretty standardly, or more. And in the last 2 weeks, I've written about 2,000 words total. But I got here and I sat in the chair and I tried, and I lost hours, 6 hours a day, 7 hours in a day I got loads of admin work done, loads of other bits that I need to get done. But writing was terrible. It was so fucking shit. But I sat down here every day, and then yesterday I got 2,000 words. Yeah. And now I'm writing again. And it was not easy, and it was horrible, and it was shit. And I'm sure there's many healthier ways to deal with that. But that's the only way I know, is to just sit there and just get, as Ronnie would say, grind through it.
Grind through it.
That's been haunt me for so long.
Ronnie's grind school. That can be like your writing school. It's like, let's
God, yeah.
I'm pretty sure you could do a workshop at Dragon Con.
Just like butt in seat and grind. Just grind it, man. Yeah. Grind it, baby.
Not at Dragon Con. That would go very differently, as Ryan understands, having been there. And see the sights.
Yeah, Ryan, like I totally understand you, man. Like, this is probably the first year in my life where I thought of myself as a writer, in the sense where I was like, I've been writing for a long time, but I had the intention to write something from start to finish. I have the intention of publishing it, and I've worked my ass off, despite the fact that it's like, everybody's got shit going on in their lives. Like my day-to-day, I'm a stay-at-home dad, and I'm literally like, I got to make sure these kids don't die. Yeah. I have to feed them. I have to nap them. And it's like time slips away so quickly. Yeah. It is fucking mind-boggling how quickly time just disappears. And it's like, I've tried many different ways of kind of navigating how to maintain some semblance of productivity. And I've found ways of kind of keeping my mind. Most of it revolves around keeping my mind and my creative juices flowing throughout the day, in the sense of like, just because I'm doing something doesn't mean I can't think about the story. Doesn't mean I can't like pull up my phone and write some notes into this like app that I have that synchronizes between my phone and my computer. And then when I sit down, it's like I have all this like ideas that I've accumulated through the day, and then I can just put my ass in my seat, grind it out, get those words out there, and just start something and see what happens. Because it's like, if I don't at least try, I can just make excuses all day of like, I'm fucking exhausted. And like 95% of the days I am fucking exhausted, but I still try, you know?
I think one thing that worked really well for me, and it doesn't always work, is like what you were saying there, is trying when I'm doing other stuff, what I'm thinking is, as soon as a scene comes into my head, something that's cool, even just cool, all right? No other purpose, serves no plot purpose whatsoever, all right? You can make a plot purpose around a cool scene. So like, I do that. I note it down. I go, this scene needs to happen in the book, all right? Or I even think, and I go, the chapter I'm going to write next, I try and focus on that when I'm doing other stuff and be like, okay, give me some key points that I think will be cool in this chapter. And what it means was I use that to learn to maximize 30 minutes. So say I'm doing something else, and then I just jump in 30 minutes of writing. That's it, 30 minutes. And if I have stuff there, I can quite consistently now get down to about 500 words in 30 minutes. That doesn't mean I can get down 500 words every 30 minutes for the whole day. But if I get a focus 30 minutes, 500 words. And then maybe later on.
At the same time, time, it's like you get those 500 words and you build off of it. Like you have a little bit more momentum to kind of jump off with the next 30 minutes that you get. Or when you have a longer writing session, then you have something to start with and you just take off from there.
Man, 500 words. If you can do 30 minutes in a day, just 500 words, 30 minutes in a day, just knock it down. All right. No other commitment to writing at all during the day, just those 30 minutes. That's 3,500 words in a week you didn't have.
That's 3,500 words. Yeah.
Well, that's 182,000 in a year if you do that every day. That's two 90K novels or one epic.
Okay, this isn't maths class. It's grinding
half
school.
Of like a Ronnie or a...
Believe it or not, I failed math as an Asian, but weirdly, ever since starting writing, I can do word count math. Like, did you just say, I failed math as an Asian? Yes, I know.
But like, did you not just fail math in general? Or was there specific Asian math that you failed?
By law, I'm like legally not allowed to. He has
the cultural expectation.
I have math.
I'm not allowed to.
I have math and I have Asian math.
Mathematician.
Yeah, we do logarithmics in Asian math.
I'm a dual major.
No, is that like
AP plus? Like AP
No,
plus
there's not even a word for it. That's like kids in India are doing calculus by like 4th or 5th grade. And I'm like, I just learned algebra, and I'm very upset they combined letters and numbers.
It kind of sounds like the insult some like redneck white dude would give to an Asian guy, being like, "You failed math in Asian," like thinking the Asian is the language. Like math in French, math in Asian.
Yeah,
dude, I've given because of how I look, I've gotten weird comments like that from man. Once I was traveling, I'm not gonna say what state, but somebody asked me what kind of Mexican. No, it wasn't Arkansas. It was more down. It was further south. Not where's Arkansas? I forget Arkansas exists.
Nobody knows where it is.
It's like in the middle of the country.
Yeah, it's like near Alabama, right? It's
smack dab in the middle.
Where
it's always further north than I think it is.
Whatever. But somebody once asked me what kind of Mexican I was, and there was so much wrong with that statement. I didn't know what to possibly say, and I'm like,
a lot of layers there too.
So much wrong, and I just
let's sit down and unpack this, you racist. Like, let's figure it out.
I didn't even want to do that because I'll admit, like, I was visiting somebody, and there was this place in ate at called Steak and Shake, and they had like 92 different kinds of milkshakes, and I was like, I could sit here and go through this, and it's probably not going to go well, or I could just go get my burger and
I could have a milkshake.
Yeah. Exactly.
Super fair.
And I just like kind of looked at him, and he probably walked away thinking I don't even speak English.
You know what you should have said? You should have said Peru and then left.
Left? God, that would have been so bad. No, the best comeback I ever did have, though, was in Texas when I stopped, and the guy was preaching at people there, and he asked me if I'd found Jesus, and I was so tired of just not having it. And I don't mean offense to anybody with this, but I would just off the top of my tongue was like, dude, I haven't even found Waldo yet. And I just kept walking. And the people behind me loved it. And that guy was not happy about that, though. But I'm like, dude, it was a red-eye flight. It's an airport in the morning. Like, come on, man.
Right?
No,
you're like, please just let me get to my hotel. Remember?
That is like a really good snap comeback. I love it.
That was just I was not in a good place mentally. So I was just like, you're having it right now. Sorry, dude. And just walk.
Where the fuck is Carmen Sandiego?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh man, yeah. No, I don't discuss religion anymore on on anything
I think
live.
we talked about this.
Yeah, I just don't.
On anything live.
But just don't, because it's just not, it's not worth it. Like, these are like offline discussions.
Well, I can get that because Waldo is a very contentious religious subject for some people.
Honestly,
I mean, you grew up with a lot of it.
Yeah. Where is Waldo? If you follow Christ, you would know.
Very existential questions we're asking here today.
Yeah, man. In Spanish, his name is Wally, and it kind of sparked like a 30-minute research stint of like, why is he called Wally in Spanish and he's called Waldo in English?
Do you know the answer to that? Because that's exactly what I was about to Google when you said that.
No, I totally forgot.
Okay, I'm re-Googling it then.
But yeah, it's like in Spanish, it's like, ¿Dónde está Wally? And it's like, I don't fucking know. Like, no sé. Where is he? But
Wait,
MJ, what about, what?
We call him Wally too.
I think it's just in North America he's called Waldo.
You guys do weird shit that's only in North America that I cannot understand. It's like genuinely
marketing. But it was a marketing tactic, something like that.
But you know what I think? I actually think there's like a separate immigration officer just for ideas. All right, it's like the ideas immigration officer, and they literally have to go like Wally comes in as this concept, and they're like, "Oh no, man." It's Waldo here. I don't know what accent that was.
Waldo here.
Don't know what accent that was.
Vaguely Southern.
It could have been anything.
I like it, dude.
It could have been anything. But it's like they have to vet the ideas and see if they're unique enough for America.
So
and if it's not, they have to switch it and change it.
Apparently, he was created by a British guy, and he was originally called Wally, and it is only in America that when he came over here.
Like a marketing term.
It's not was originally. It's not was originally called Wally.
Like,
he is Wally. And then you guys just changed it.
No,
like you guys are just like fucking it up.
Yeah. Canada and America. I don't know, but obviously Canada piggybacked on America's bullshit. Like that's what they do. It's just a thing.
But even like you guys have sidewalks. You guys have sidewalks, all right? Footpaths that are still footpaths. They're paths for your feet. And you guys like, yeah, but ours are on the side, so they're sidewalks.
You walk on that logic, though, every path you walk on is a footpath, even in your home. Then, if your feet are on it by that,
because the road is not for feet, though; it's for tires. We work off purposes.
I've seen idiots walking on the road, but
yes, but it's not for them.
Okay, MJ, I want to get your takes on this. Like, you released a book this year. What are some highlights and challenges that you've experienced?
Yeah, well, this year was like a lot. There was some personal and professional challenges just all around. Basically, like I'm really looking forward to bidding it adieu. But I did release a book this year. So Thick as Thieves came out this summer, which was pretty fun.
Thick as Thieves.
Yeah, it was my first. Well, obviously, it's only my second book I've ever released, so it was obviously my first time promoting a sequel, which is so much harder to promote a sequel than it is to promote a book one. Not just because, like, I mean, theoretically, if you're promoting the sequel itself, you're promoting it to a much smaller pool of people, right? Because you're only going to be promoting it to the people that read book one. But if you want to promote it to a wider pool, which you do, right, to try to get people to then read book one, you can't really promote the sequel because then you're spoiling book one. Oh my God, I had so much trouble with that. So that was a challenge this year. I also had challenges with the time, time commitments and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Just time, just the existence of time.
I don't like time.
For real, time isn't real, to be fair. But...
Yep.
But yeah, no, just like fitting everything in, right? Because this was also my first year doing the podcast, which has been really fun. But it is a bit of a time commitment between recording the episodes and reading the books for it and prepping for the episodes and things like that. And then I do still have a full-time day job. I work in marketing, so I have, and it's been crazy because we've been just eternally short-staffed this year. So I've been putting in like 50 plus hours a week there, and then doing podcasts. And then trying to write my books. I have 2 different books on submission right now. A fantasy and my first sci-fi ever. So yeah, which is funny when you guys were talking about, or Ronnie, when you were talking about like the enjoyment of writing the thriller and being able to like just talk about like, streets and like not have to like build. I felt that way. Obviously, like there was still a lot of world building because it's sci-fi, but like I was able to just like use technology, which was really fun for me.
The flux capacitor.
Yeah, like literally there'd be like 2 characters. They need to go a long distance. They take a train. There's, you know what I mean? 2 characters on the opposite side of the town. They need to talk
You're
to
not
each
sitting
other.
there going,
They
how
call each other.
far can two horses travel across a sandy desert, loaded up with 16 kilograms of package?
That was
and I have done those exact Googles though, Ryan, for my other projects. Where it's like, how far can a human feasibly walk in a day? You know what I mean? Like whatever. Like
MJ,
like
I've had emails. I've had emails
really
where someone being like, "I'm looking at your map now, and the character was traveling this way, and they said the mountains were to the left, but the mountains should be to the right based off the way they're traveling here." And then I had to sit there at the email and go, "Did you realize that in that scene the character was sitting backwards?" So everything's on the other side.
Right? You're like, they're facing the other way on the horse. Problem solved. I love
the classic
it.
60s, 70s action is fiction. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, right.
Like this is still canon in Game of Thrones at this point. I don't know if they've gone back and edited the books, but there's times like Jaime Lannister's horse has changed colors. And I think there's some instances where Joffrey, at least in the audiobooks, gets called Jeffrey.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
For some reason, that makes him way like... Well, not that he's intimidating anyways. He just kind of sucks. But like, if his name is just Jeffrey.
Hey, Jeffrey. It makes him sound like a little, I don't know. Either like he's like a schoolboy or like he works at like a computer store or something like that. It's like you sell computers.
Those are the only two appropriate. So sorry to all the Jeffreys out there. Those are your options. You can be a schoolboy or work at a computer store.
I was thinking there about how you were saying about like, still do like 50 hours in a day job and still like doing all that crazy shit. And I remember like when I went full time, people were like, "Oh my God, you must be writing like so much more now." And I'll be totally honest. I'm writing the exact same amount. I'm just healthier and I sleep more.
Yes.
Yeah. Like I don't like
sacrifice other stuff.
It's unhealthy to then go and occupy those 50 hours plus the hours you're doing with writing. But now I sleep. And occasionally I watch TV for joy. And there's other things in my life that I allow in for happiness. But my productivity actually isn't higher.
Well, and that's what the funny thing is when I my least favorite thing, my pet peeve, whenever I talk to people about like doing the whole writing thing is, people not in the writing community, right? Like people just in like regular life or whatever outside of the computer screen where all my writing friends are. Yeah, come on, clean it up, man.
It just she sheds. They're everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, people will be like, "Oh, I'm going to write a book someday if I ever have the time, when I have the time." And I'm always like, oh, yes, because I just like magically have so much time.
Come on, Susan, you're not that busy.
Well, here's the thing. You are busy, right? Like I'm very busy. Lots of people are busy. Adrian's busy. Like you guys are busy. But like if you have the specific crazy bug that we all have, you make the time, right? And it's not for everyone to make the time. You have to be a very special kind of tortured to force yourself to do this.
We're all a little bit fucked in the head.
I think there's this thing.
I say that very lovingly about authors. It's like all of us are like a touch fucked in the head.
But there's a thing as well, though.
We are kind of neurotic and insane and very obsessive.
That's the thing. They've shown like the arts attract a higher degree. I don't know what the percentage is, but of like neurodivergent people. And there's probably a reason for why. I don't know if it's escapism or what, but they have at least shown studies that, there's a higher percentage of people who are not all 100%.
There is a thing, though, and I've talked about this before, and it's like, I don't know what it is. I think, especially like in the writing field as well, I think people are completely unwilling. I think you have to prefix this with the caveat that luck is so important in all kind of artistic fields, in finding the opportunity to break through. It's very important. But if someone hasn't put in the grind, Ronnie, or the hard work to take advantage of the luck when it arrives, then it passes through. And I think there's this weird thing now where it's kind of taboo to tell someone that hard work is important because people get like offended by it. They're like, I work just as hard as everyone else. I work hard. And
is that a thing?
Oh, it's a big thing.
Really?
But it also, people don't, with that as well, I think people like to think that other people who might have been successful or something else or are doing well or never even mind any of that, who finished their book. People who published, people who did and whatever barometer's the wrong word, whatever gauge you use for success, even just getting a book published, just getting a book written, earning money off your book. People tend to they don't like to to give the credit for the hard work a lot of the time. It's like, oh, well, that person had this advantage, or that person got lucky, and it's like, yes, they did. They did get lucky, and perhaps they did have an advantage. But a lot of the time in those situations, like we've been talking about this whole episode, sitting down for like 2 weeks in a row just to stare at a fucking screen, just to refuse to allow yourself to stop, to refuse to allow yourself to quit. And that's hard work. And it's like MJ now is going through all of this. She's released her sequel. She's going through a crazy volcano of a life at the minute, and she's just grinding it out. I cannot stop saying that now.
It's too good.
Just
Ronnie grind Virdi.
But it's hard. It's hard work. Like, it's genuine graft. And when people say that, they're like, oh, I think that's the gear that turns in your head when people say, oh, I'll write a book when I have the time. And you're sitting there going, it's not time. It's dedication.
Is what you make. Yeah.
But it's the difference between,
you make the time, right?
What's the difference between inspiration and dedication? All right. Because if you rely on inspiration, then you have to wait for something to work. And dedication is just doing it. It's just sitting there, whether it's working or not. And I think that is a big difference.
Like this year, man, like a lot of listeners know that I live in Ecuador, and it's kind of one of those countries that is a bit just unknown and off a lot of people's radars.
Turmoil. I thought you were going to say is in turmoil, because it has been a little bit.
No, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there.
Oh, okay.
But like straight up this year, like so much shit has been happening in this country, and like my wife and I and her family have just been kind of trying to like, what are we going to do? You know, like cartels from Colombia and Mexico have basically been using Ecuador as like a trafficking hub and employing local drug gangs to be like their on the ground people. And it's like, there have been like violent prison riots. There has been like a huge uptick in assaults and robberies and kidnappings. And it's like, I'm a very gringo ass looking dude.
What are you talking about? You're definitely more tan than when I first met you.
That's true. But I take off my hat. And I'm super blonde. Someone looks at me and they're just like, cool, I'm going to kidnap your ass and I'm going to ransom you.
You should dye your hair.
Whoever your family is. Just show up on the podcast and have like black bangs like MJ.
Yes, there you go.
Honestly, I think it'll be amazing.
Emo life with me.
Can you get that wig made?
There we go.
Yeah, it's South America. I could probably get it made with real hair for sure.
Now we're talking. You know, that's the good shit.
How is the hair acquired?
Adrian's just like, yo, yeah, all made from real human hair. It sounds like human.
Yeah.
There's a cartel, like just.
I could get a wig made of like alpaca fur or something like that.
Now we're talking.
Probably.
Yeah.
And creative.
Yeah. Would I look good in an afro? I don't know.
So.
It's super.
I don't know if that's your vibe, my dude.
No, I'm not. Yeah. But like literally, the country has just been slowly going to shit. And my wife and I and our family have been like putting together backup plans of like, if this turns into like Venezuela, are we going to go to Canada? Are we going to go to like Spain? Or what are we going to do? And meanwhile, like all this shit is going on. There's a presidential election. One of the presidential candidates gets assassinated and shot in the head in Quito, where I live. One of my friends drove by in a taxi the moment that shooting happened and like was messaging everybody afterwards, you know? So it's like, shit's not fine.
Yep.
But still I managed to write. It's like life can fall apart around you. And you can be in a situation where you have to think like, do I have to put money into a bank account in a foreign country because this country might literally
probably not the worst idea in the world, just as a
which is like I have been
on a more positive note.
But I'm just saying like if anyone is out there thinking like I don't have time to write, if you make time, you can fucking write.
Yeah, it's about the, I don't know, having that specific crazy bug that we're talking about, right? Like not everyone wants
like if it's a passion, it's something that you want to do. Yeah,
but it's the big thing. It's the big thing you need to ask yourself before you do anything. What's my goal?
Yeah.
You know, because everything's in context to a goal. Like, if you don't want to write as a career, then just don't write if you don't want to, because you do it as a passion, as an outlet. And, you don't need to force yourself to write then. If you want it to be your sole income career, you're going to have to have the same dedication that anyone who wants anything to become their sole income career has. And that's the long and short of it. So it's about expectations. In the same way that you set a promise for your reader on your first page of what your book is going to be like, you've got to set that same promise for yourself. What am I trying to do? Mm-hmm. You don't have to sit there and grind out all these words if you don't want to turn this into your financially dependable career. If you just want to write because you love writing and maybe something might happen one day, then that's a whole different situation.
You can do it for fun.
Yeah. And at the same time, it's like, if you are serious about it, it's like, think about your expectations in terms of, do I want to go indie or do I want to go trad, or what works best for you on an individual level? Like, for the longest time was like, I want to go trad. I want to get an agent. I want to query and blah, 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 blah. And this podcast convinced me otherwise, that it is not the path for me, that I want to go self-publish, because that fits my personality, that fits my work ethic, and it fits everything that I have set in terms of my expectations for what I want to get out of this thing.
But it's also like when we talked. Oh, sorry, Ronnie, go ahead.
No. I was just
saying, we have continental time delays and overlaps.
Industries and things change too, so you might go into it with certain goals and expectations, but the situation you were expecting to have happen or work out with has changed in that time. Like, for the publishing industry right now, it's a very wild west time.
I thought your whole experience was extremely stable and always consistent.
I was going to say,
believe it or not,
stable.
Well,
it actually was pretty consistent.
To be fair, it's been quite consistent for me. Consistently unstable.
Consistently turd.
Well, I want to throw this out there. It's like, in that note, like, I want to throw this out to everybody. Like, how have your perspectives on sort of like writing industry and like the publishing world shifted this year, whether it's for better or for worse?
Yeah, I'll start, because I think I have pretty light thing to say. I think
here we fucking go.
I really think I agree in general with the sentiment that just do what feels right for you, feels right for your book, approach the method of publication that feels like a vibe for you. For myself, though, what I'm starting to realize from my perspective, which again, I don't know shit, man. I'm just a person on the internet. But from my perspective, I think it is very, very difficult in the present climate for the vast majority of writers to earn a full-time career amount of money with just trad. It happens, right? There's some people that get those monster advances or that get those breakout successes. Their book goes crazy on TikTok, and I'm so thrilled every time I have a couple of friends that happened to, and every time I see their book when I'm at Target, I take a picture, I text it to them. I love that for them. But that's not the experience for the vast majority of trad published authors, right? Most of us end up in the lovely section called the mid-list, which is fine, is great. It's making money, but not, I say I make part-time college job money off of my writing career. Which is sad,
because the mid-list used to actually be livable. It's what Steve was talking about during the Penguin Random House merger. No, it's not.
And so that's why I'm I think that the most sustainable method for me and where I'm at right now is to go hybrid. So I'm planning on continuing to pursue, I'm going to have two different halves of my writing career. The stuff that I think that is saleable in the trad market, I'm going to go through my agent. I'm going to try to sell traditionally. And then I'm going to work on my cool little projects that I think are fun and I think could do well in the indie market. And I'm going to pursue those now that I know people and I know how to do the stuff. Because that was another part of why I didn't want to go indie off the bat.
But
it's so scary.
That's a huge barrier to entry. Is just the knowledge.
Yes, I didn't know cover artists. I didn't know how to format anything. I didn't know how to navigate the I know marketing. I do it for my day job, but I market B2B tech and SaaS solutions. It's not the same, right? It's a lot drier. It's not the same.
But I think we talked about this before as well. That for me, I think hybrid for most authors is going to be the future. A lot of indies who are earning very, very, very solid money are going to take on smaller trad deals. When I say smaller trad deals, I don't mean like small money. I mean like maybe they'll commit a small portion of what they're doing to trad deals for stabilization and diversification
right, like
of income.
Here's like a standalone, or here's like a duology or a trilogy.
Yeah,
as opposed to like I'm gonna sell you like a 10-book fantasy.
Indie
fantasy
is like,
or something.
For me, one of the most important things about building a solid, stable income is about having diverse income streams. So especially when you're indie, because it's weird, because in one way some people look at indie as like an unreliable income, whereas the reality is it's more consistent than trad. I get paid every month.
Yes.
Like I don't wait for my royalties at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I'm not dependent on someone to give me the next portion of my advance.
I don't think a lot of people know this, but it's like majority of traditionally published authors get paid twice a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is fucking
if that's only if your books have earned out and you're getting royalties.
But that's not counting advance payments. But yes, but you're right.
But that only happens if you're selling a book every year.
Yeah,
you know?
that's everyone.
Which
it's like anything. It's like when I look at stuff and I go, okay, so I have my ebooks, which are paid through, say, I'm Kindle exclusive, so like I get my ebooks and they come through on like the 29th of every month. Mm-hmm. Then I have my print books, some of which are sold at Amazon, some of which are sold with Ingram Spark, and they've gotten to a good stage now too. And then I have audiobooks, which is a separate income stream, and then I'm doing translations, which is a separate income stream. And then if I go and I signed a trad deal or something, then that would be a different income stream. And the idea being that if one income stream collapses, you're not in trouble. And so like that diversification of income is really important from an indie perspective. I think a lot of trad authors, one thing that I've noticed is we see a lot of comparisons between trad and indie, but I think the authors should be supporting authors. And once we all kind of get together and do that, one thing that indie does for trad, a big thing that indie does for trad, is it gives them an option that they never had when they used to deal with publishers. So like if you can understand indie and you have a concept of indie, and especially if you've got a bit of a readership behind you, you now have a legitimate option. If you go in and you pitch a book and they say, yeah, we'll give you 10K, you can say, suck a dick. And you can go and publish it indie. And it might not, I think there's also the misconception if you publish it indie, it'll just be a success, which is not the case. But it's a viable option. It's a viable alternative. And it means you have the ability to walk away from a deal, which is a position authors weren't in previously. You know, you had to go to another publisher and another publisher. So like,
and there's so few of those now these days too.
Yeah, so. But the one thing that gets, I think, left out of statistics, and that I think like MJ was touching on with regards to like mid-list authors and trad, is that what people will say is people will use percentages, and percentages, like any statistic, are massively misrepresented. And people will say like X% of indie authors. They talk about like the 1% and the 1% earning this and earning that. The problem is though, there was a thing done a while ago and they're talking about what the average income is for different authors. And they had a cutoff point of spending 20 plus hours professionally, like on your book. The thumbs up came up. And a lot of people weren't happy about that. They were like, oh, we know, I don't do that. I'm indie and I don't do 20 plus hours and it's not fair in statistic. And I'm like, well, hold on. Like, to make statistics applicable, you need to have a sample size that's usable. So the problem with the indie field is because the barrier to entry is non-existent. You can just publish anything you want. You know, you have millions of books of people who just put up one book and never even looked at it again. You can't include those in your statistics because these are not people who are trying to make it a career. When you look at people who are trying to make it a career, I easily know as many or more indie authors that are earning perfectly livable wages, not crazy money, just perfectly livable, and they live full-time off their career, than I do
and they're happy doing what they love.
So like, but genuinely like 50-50 of the authors that I talk to, half of them earn livable wage just from their writing what would be considered maybe mid-list. They have more titles and they earn streams from different places. And that's the thing, is I don't talk to a lot of trad authors who do that. I know a lot of trad authors making very good money. You know, trad is still amazing. There's loads of amazing things for all this stuff. I know a lot of trad authors making very good money. But then that gap is huge. Whereas in indie, yes, there's obviously people earning nuclear money.
But a difficult thing is like the diversification that you can pull off in indie, because everything is in your hands.
Well, all your rights are separated.
Like,
that's what I was going to say. You're right.
So it's like, if I want to have that diversification, if I want to have the table with like 6 legs where I'm, you know, I've got the audiobook, you have the rights to all of that in your hands. When you sign a contract to a publisher, you're putting that into their hands. And if they just don't feel like fucking promoting you, then it's like, so much
you
shit
can
just crumbles
negotiate for
from
some
there.
of those rights back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But that's
Like,
the thing,
and hold
MJ,
on to some of them.
I heard in trad, it's like you kind of have to pick your battles in terms of
Oh,
this is the
100%
thing
you
that
do.
I'm going to fight
100%
for.
you do.
And
Well,
you
the other
have to-
challenging thing with creating more, diversifying and getting more books out there, and this is another reason why I'm interested in going, a little more hybrid, is just the publication speed.
Yes.
Very slow
in trad. So, for example, my first Among Thieves, I signed the book deal for that in 2019.
Wow.
It was supposed to come out in 2020, but then obviously we know 2020 was 2020. So they pushed it a year. It came out in 2021. I was under an option clause with my publisher, so I could not submit any work anywhere but to Saga until they had either passed or agreed to take on the next project.
Do those option clauses have a term of days? So like you present them and they have to get back to you in 30 days.
The term of days starts when I turn in the final draft of book 1. And they had not they didn't send me edit notes for book 1 for over a year.
So any delay on their part delays your whole process. And
correct. I was just powerless
I've
to do
talked to you about that privately before.
With
Ryan
my author career for over a year.
It can get very nasty.
I mean, ended up being okay, right? Because I just ended up writing a bunch of stuff, and now I have a bunch of stuff in the pipeline, which is why I'm able to have 2 books out on submission right now in different genres, blah, 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 blah. So it ended up working out okay, but like this is why I signed my book deal in 2019. It is 2023. I only have 2 books out. I've written 6 since.
From 2021. I've published 6 books, including one that's like 450,000 words, 437,000 words.
And so that's, I'm like, you have
I'm able to turn it around.
Correct. Yeah. You can put out 2 books in a year. You have a little more freedom. Whereas, there's advantages to the trad, the option clauses and things like that. I'm sure, for various authors, and I'm sure things work out differently for a lot of people, but just, for my specific experience, it ended up kind of holding me back a little bit. And so I'm like, oh, maybe I want
I wouldn't say it's too specific to you. And it's a weird one because it's a direct hindrance to all debuts, basically, because I have a big thing about, like with all marketing, I'm sure you've seen it before, is like basically 85% of success comes with achieving a critical mass, of whatever your target is. So like 85% of selling these books is achieving a critical mass of sales or readers within a certain period of time, because once you can do that, you've created this buzz. There's so many people who have it now at the same time that more people see it. And it's just the way it works. It's like with Amazon, with any algorithm, when an algorithm has a goal to achieve a certain metric, if you can achieve that goal very quickly, it will look at your thing and go, this does it well. And so with the debut author, like the big advantage that I had is that because I could turn over books much quicker, I could create a backlist much quicker, and I could keep people in my series. Whereas what happens a lot with trad, especially if they don't get the direct success they find in the first book, the time between the first and the second book is so long that critical mass misses your line, it misses your peak. Your peak comes here. Instead of going here and then lifting off it and going higher again, you end up with 2 peaks beside each other. And I know that might seem a bit silly and abstract.
There's like a huge lull where people are more likely to forget about you and forget about your work.
But there's a point in which the sales of your second book can leverage the popularity of your first book, and there's a point in which it will just mimic it. And that's directly proportional to the time between the book.
Yeah, or not even reach it.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, but it's also a weird one, like what to do with series between indie and trad. Whereas in trad, it's viewed as a natural death spiral where you will always sell less. But that's such a narrow view, because in indie series are the goldmine, and the reason it is because obviously you can't sell more of book 2 than book 1, because the prerequisite for book 2 is having read book 1.
They have to have read the first one.
But you're completely missing the point that book 2 should stimulate sales of book 1, and book 2 sells more units of book 1 that then sells book 2. So what you should be doing
is a compounding effect of like every consecutive book piles on to the.
When I do my advertising, I did a weird hand gesture there. When I do like my advertising metrics, and I
didn't get an emoji. That's disappointing.
I know. I was hoping for one for you for that.
Some like flowery flourish.
There we go.
Fireworks.
when I do my advertising metrics, what I'm actually looking at to determine whether I get a good ROI isn't like my sale on book 1 and my sale on book 2. It's not just a proportional increase. When I have book 2, I look to go, okay, that's great, but how many copies of book 1 does my sale of book 2 organically stimulate? And then when I go and I do that and I move forward, I'm looking at a series read through for my return on investment, knowing that as I keep releasing, that should stimulate growth. And I put more into it. I keep pumping things into book 1, because you were talking about how you earlier, MJ, how to promote a book 2. Like with advertising, you don't. You only promote book 1, and
Book
you're
one.
your only marketing for book 2 is I'm still writing.
Right, there's more.
Yeah, which is like inverse to what you see with George R. Martin and Patrick Rothfuss, which is I'm not writing anymore, and that's why people have no. But like for George R. Martin, I have a lot of sympathy. Patrick Rothfuss, I have less. But it's the thing that a lot of readers see, and it's something that has this weird fear where the majority rules is that a lot of people are finishing their series, just a few small major players who have been slower.
That's actually fair. There's been punitive damage across the industry actually because of that fear, where a lot of people won't bid on larger series.
It's a completely unfounded fear.
It's like a network effect of negativity in terms of like, there's the expectation that like, oh, why would I sign on to X series when there's a likelihood that you won't finish it? And it's like, my work ethic is not
and that hurts the sales of a book 1 of potential authors. They've actually done a very I forgot who it was, but they pulled book scan records.
Book 1, you're not going to have the financial ability to keep writing fast enough to get it out, and so it's a whole thing. No, I think
entire people's careers have been destroyed by that, having to go get a day job or something like after you got the big advance, which also gets very nebulous, because there's the argument of, you shouldn't have quit your day job. But if you look historically, and there's entire articles backing the whole point of the advance was specifically so you could live off the advance and commit to the contracted works and get them out on the contracted time. Then afterwards, it's whatever.
There's a massive negative impact then. Like I got it from musicians and gigs where when you have a massive gig and it goes amazingly and there's such a high that the next day is the lowest low you could ever have. And so that has a huge impact on people's writing when they get these big advances and they're like, oh my God, like I'm achieving my dream. And now I'm going to go flip burgers for 6 months because I'm not getting the income I need. And that has a huge impact on people's mental health and people's psyche for writing. Because then they're like, wait, maybe this isn't what I'm meant for.
But Ryan, it's not just that. There are so many hurdles that will give you an insane dopamine rush. And like Ronnie and MJ can speak more to this, but it's like, I was talking to Andrew Stewart about like, you get over the hurdle of, okay, you've written however many books is like practice and however many that died on in like the querying trenches. You go through the querying trenches and then you get an agent. You get this huge fucking dopamine rush of like, yes, I got an agent. And then you kind of go into this lull again where you realize, okay, now that I have an agent doesn't mean I'm published. I have to go with this agent and submit this book to publishers. And you go through the process again of rejection and editors being like, no, we don't want to publish this. Oh, it doesn't have series potential. Or it like, like we want like a standalone.
Or it does have series potential these days.
Yeah. And it's like, they don't want series. And they have all these expectations of like, it's not meeting our requirements personally. And so you have that lull and that weight of rejection again. And then your book gets picked up again, or your book gets picked up by a publisher. And then you go through the process of like going and getting your book edited by professional editors and blah, blah, blah. And then like getting your cover and all this stuff and all these highs. And then it's like, okay, then maybe they like don't market you the way that you feel you should be marketed. And then there's a potential for like, oh, my book doesn't sell very well. It didn't even earn out its advance and blah, 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 blah. So you have these so many potential highs and lows.
Just moving goalposts.
But even just launching the book, like I know from myself that like you work your ass off, you put all these hours in, all your dreams go into this book, it's launched, and the only thing anyone cares about and the only thing that your brain ends up caring about is when's the next book. And so like, or even right now, I have published 500,000 words this year and I feel like I haven't published anything. So I'm now fretting over my next book, which isn't due till next year because I'm losing weeks of writing time right now. And I'm not even living off the high. Like I launched my novella, a 55,000 word novella, in September.
Novella.
And my brain's just going, it's been so long since I've published anything. This isn't okay.
Did you just say September?
Yeah.
It's been so long since you. Okay.
It's been 2 months.
It's been like
no, I
2
know.
months.
Trust me. No, this isn't my rational thought. I understand it when I think rationally, but when I'm just sitting there I'm panicking over the book that I have, and that's the problem, is that like your brain doesn't let you rest. Your brain's just like, oh well, I need to publish again, because if I don't publish again, I'll fall into obscurity. Like, and it's just this never-ending thing.
Well, I call it the moving goalposts, because that's, I would always say like, oh, if I can just get an agent, I'll be happy. Oh, if I can just get a book deal, I'll be happy. Oh, if I can just see my book on the shelves at a bookstore, I'll be happy. You know what I mean? And first of all, it's just a dangerous game to play. Yeah. It turns into like a grass is greener situation. It's like somewhat unavoidable though. But I cannot for the life of me remember which author this was. And I wish I could. I think I saw she tweeted it or something, where when she was writing, like a baby writer, wasn't even agented, whatever. She wrote a letter to herself to open on like publication day or like the day after, right? Like when you have like the post-debut blues or whatever, with what her goals were then, so that she could see where the goalposts were initially. And I was like, that is so smart, because it is so easy. Like even now, like I have 2 books on the shelf. If I go to my Barnes and Noble down the street, I'm going to have 2 books with my name on the spine. Like that's incredible. That's amazing. I should be so over the moon happy about that every day. But because what you just described, I'm still like, oh my God, I'm stressing. I need the next thing out. I need the next thing out. I need to get the next deal. I need to get my indie stuff going. Which like all of that is true and I still want that. But like, I don't know. It's hard to not fall prey to
like moving goalposts is really important for challenging yourself and for improving. Yeah. But it becomes dangerous territory when you let your happiness be dependent on the goalposts to keep moving. Yeah. Which is human nature. Yeah,
when you base your self-worth on it even, right? Like that's when it gets really, really dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah. But and almost everyone does until they learn.
Sorry, go ahead. Become like desensitized to the like the potency and the usefulness of goalposts. It's like you become desensitized to like the achievements that you've accrued to get to that fucking point. And then you just kind of, like I experienced this a lot when I was tattooing, where I was like, this is like the best tattoo that I've ever done. I would look at a tattoo and be like, that is the best fucking tattoo I've ever done. And then 6 months later, just like I've forgotten about it.
Thick hairy dick on someone's arm.
No, that was the best one. He was stoked about it.
Whoa.
Yeah, no, just like a tattoo of Ronnie grinding. That's all.
You were prophetic. You saw it ahead of time.
While reading
kick-ass thieves. Celebrate those victories. Yeah.
But then down the line, like 6 months later, I'm just like, I'm a shit tattoo artist and blah blah blah, and I completely forget about the fact that it's like I've done something this year that I'm that proud of, and it just my self-worth and this thing that I felt that I achieved, they don't connect in the way that they should, because I've just desensitized myself to the fact that like, what is my self-worth dependent on, and what do my achievements mean as time progresses and as like my career progresses and whatnot.
Do you ever get that like people like I feel like 99% of people all feel this way internally and then assume that they're the strange ones for feeling this way, and they never externalize it, never say it. And you say it in a group and everyone sits there going, yep, no, that's my life. Mm-hmm. Like I've sat here and I've written passages and gone, that was brilliant. And then I sit there and I go, I'm a fraud. Why am I even here? I don't know what I'm doing. Like I'll be there and there's people who've been writing for 20 years and they've read all these books and they're like, yeah, I had 20 books in my back pocket before I got published. And I'm like, yeah, I released the first book that I ever wrote and I'm only 6 books in and that's all I've ever written. And I'm basically just an imposter and I don't know what writing even is. So probably just don't trust me. And then I sit there and I go, do you know what? I'm not too bad. And then the next day I'm shit again.
I try to do, which is the first one, and I need to get back into this because I've fallen out of it. But I have like a Google Doc where I call it like my like little dopamine folder, and what I'll put in there if I get tagged in a really nice tweet or I happen to see a really nice review, which I try not to read my reviews, but like sometimes you do. Or
just
if
filter
I write
for 5 stars.
That's what I do when I do like.
I'm not. I think I'm too mentally fragile to not filter for 5 stars.
Yeah,
so
because ultimately the reviews aren't for me,
exactly.
right? They're for
I'm
other
just going to use them for a dopamine boost.
But seriously, like for a moment when I'm feeling really down, or like a passage that I wrote that I'm really proud of or whatever that I feel really slaps, like I'll put that in the folder just to kind of like remind myself, like, oh yeah, like sometimes I can do this. And then the other thing I do, at all times, like if I go to my fridge right now, I have a tiny bottle of Prosecco, like a little baby bottle of champagne, and I keep it in my fridge all the time. And as soon as I like open that one, I'll go the next time I go grocery shopping, I'll get a new one, and I just save it there for anytime there's a little win. A tiny win. And then I'll crack it and I'll like just have myself, it's just like a single glass. Like
you're not Irish because it would be a full-size bottle of Prosecco.
But that's, it's just to make sure I celebrate those tiny wins, right? Like it's a dumb little thing, but it's like, since I know that little tiny bottle of Prosecco is in there, oh, I get that one thing. It's not a big win. It's not let's go out, for dinner win. It's just like this is a little win just for me, So
do you know what one is actually, it seems kind of sadistic, but it's something that really worked for me when I was feeling shit, when I saw bad reviews and I was feeling shit about my own writing, is I went to my favorite authors and I filtered by their 1 stars.
Yes. No, I do that too. And I feel like it sounds like I'm being shitty and petty when I say that, but I'm not. I'm reminding myself that somebody hates everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like I go
that
read
not
like
every
a book
single book is for everybody.
Well, that's why all of the tastes exist, right? Like if there was one singular metric to taste, none of us would be publishing, to be honest. There'd be whatever that predetermined taste is. And
like what the fuck is something that is marketable to everybody? It's like,
right, hopefully nothing, because if you try to speak to everyone, you're speaking to
It's like when they take
one.
like a horror film or something else and they try to make it PG-13 and you're like, you took away what the core part of what makes it good in this genre to appeal to a wider audience without letting it be itself.
I mean, for anybody watching that is genuinely thinking about writing, like here's a piece of mathematical truth. There are 8 billion people in the world. So whatever your idea is, it's like mathematically impossible that you're the only person who could like it because of the way how we all form our tastes of what, we all like. Everything, it's all fed from each other. Like there's literally probably 1 million fans out there for you. And that doesn't mean you're going to find them. That's obviously the marketing challenge of reaching them. But it's actually arrogant to think nobody likes what you like. In fact, there are probably millions worldwide who could even access it. The rest is just, getting it done, getting it out, and then getting it into their hands.
Yeah.
But in terms of likability, there's absolutely millions probably for every writer out there.
You obviously haven't browsed like Amazon's werewolf sex section if you think that there is something for everyone.
But this is something that I
remember those indie days on Smashwords. Wow, that was a time when that place used to actually
Ryan's
be a thing.
thumbs up in that.
That's it there.
Yeah. Smashwords.
It's really sensitive.
But that's the thing, is like talking to anybody about mushroom blues, I realize like there are a lot of people who love mushrooms and are obsessed with mushrooms as much as I am. And it's but like I'm not fucking around here. It's like there are so many people who it's straight up like I will tell them, do you like noir? Do you like police procedurals? Do you like mushrooms? And like mushrooms clicks with so many fucking people.
I bet.
And there are other people, like there's one podcaster who I talked to and he's like, mushrooms weird me out, but I would still be interested in reading your book. And I'm like, you're going to be more weirded out about mushrooms after reading my book. So I'm sorry.
You're like, just you wait, buddy.
But, and like even Ronnie and I have been friends for like 6 months. The reason we are friends is because I posted a picture about mushrooms and Ronnie messaged me. No, this was before. But Ronnie straight up, he sent me a message and
that was good timing.
Yeah, that was
perfect comedic timing with that.
Ronnie straight up, he responded and was just like, you seem like a cool guy. And I'm at the gym now. I'm gonna DM you.
I did say that. I was at the gym.
And then you DM'd me, and we just like shot the shit. We were just chatting, and then like we ended up having a video call not long after that. But it's like me just posting a picture of mushrooms that I found like at the park or like in my backyard or something was the impetus for Ronnie to be like, I'm at the gym, but like you seem like a cool guy, so I'm gonna DM you.
Do you know what I would do?
Our friendship.
I would publish your book 2 weeks before the second season of The Last of Us comes out.
I mean,
Because
this is
The
the
Last
thing.
of
This
Us
is the thing.
made
Like, I'm not,
cordyceps like globalized.
right, but
Yeah.
Ryan, I'm not done with mushrooms. So it's like I will have a book
I didn't suggest you
that
were.
falls. I have a book. I will have a book that falls in line with the second season of The Last of Us. Like next year, I have Mushroom Blues in the spring, and then I'm planning to release another one in the fall that is in the same world, and it's with mushroom people. And then after that, Mushroom Blues has 3 sequels planned, and that next book has 2 sequels planned in a trilogy. So it's like I'm gonna have 7 books of mushroom stuff, and one of them is gonna coincide with season 2 of The Last of Us.
There you go.
That's such a broad scope. Somewhere in
That's a lot
between
of
book 1 and
mushrooms.
7, season 2 of The Last of Us will appear.
Right.
I don't know when the
It
fuck
will
it's gonna
fall
come
in
out,
there.
but there will be a book that comes around, that time, and I can always use like The Last of Us as a comp and just be like, you like fucked up mushroom stuff? Come on over. I got you.
Come on over. Come into my inner circle.
There was something I forgot to
Come
say
into
that
my
wanted
serial
to
network. I got you.
earlier with the trad. I don't want to say verse indie, but the misconceptions and things we've learned going through them, because I've been fortunate enough to be hybrid. It touches on stuff Ryan talked about, but like the productivity I had being indie, which I enjoyed, has actually so for the dopamine rush thing, I actually never had any of that going traditional, which might sound really insulting in the process, but I also went trad very differently than most people. I didn't have an agent first.
Yeah.
I sold my series off of a sample and just talking about the whole plan for it, and got my agent afterwards. But going traditional has kind of negatively affected my mental health in terms of like what you brought up with the non-competes and the options, because I was so used to writing at such a high productive speed being indie, and I chose writing because it makes me happy. So I'm capable of finishing multiple books a year, and if I do, I have nowhere to possibly sell them. Because if you're publisher, because it's very rare for any author to just get another deal, even if you're doing really well on book 1. If you have a committed series, they will wait usually to your first 3 books, even though, so in my case, my book 1 out earned like in 4 months, which is really good, especially considering what it was acquired for and everything. Like it did really well.
Your productivity is rewarded in real time in indie. When you produce, you're rewarded. Whereas with trad, it's not, and that's a massive negative impact on how your brain perceives success and productivity.
Everything. Well, not just that, but also if writing makes you happy and you're like, well, I can't do anything with this because of contracts and other stuff. Like there is also that I'd like to write this and get to the next thing and not just backlist 90 fucking novels.
It's like if you're working in an office and they said, hey, how about you come and work here for 2 years and we'll pay you then. But you need to have achieved a certain level of productivity while you're here, but you're not going to get rewarded for that productivity over that whole time. But we will reward you in 2 years if you have stayed at that level. But
this is something that a lot of authors who we've had on the podcast kind of like, they have this strange disassociation with the fact that they are talking about and promoting a book that they finished like a year ago.
Actors go through that. By the time a movie comes out, if you'll see some of them who get really tired with those interviews, some of them admit, like, dude, I filmed that movie 2 years ago, and now in the span of 60 days, I'm doing 30 countries answering the same 10 questions about a movie I did 2 years ago. I've made 4 more movies that haven't come out yet. Like actors literally have admitted that. They talk about why sometimes they get a little cagey, and it makes sense. It's like, that project was done ages ago for them. And if you're a working actor,
I do feel like though there's kind of a fun part though for me at least, where like I'm a little divorced from the emotional connection to the book by the time it comes out, which sounds bad and does make it a little harder to promote, but it makes it a lot easier to handle if you see kind of negative criticisms come in, or even I find it really fun because like the person I wrote the book as is not the person I am now. And so it's like a past version of myself is forming a connection with like present readers today. And like the experience of them bringing things that have happened to them and the experience of who I was then writing it is coming together. It's kind of fun. It's like I get to like view this as like a totally separate third party as a connection between them and my art. I don't know.
Something else that getting into like the trad and indie thing that kind of opened my eyes a lot was I started indie 2013, so right after the gold rush happened with like Hugh Howey and some of the earlier names, and I saw how indie was still viewed as by traditional and a lot of the industry, which is very negative. during those early years, even though people were working their asses off, and it was a very, very wild west time, right? Nobody knew exactly who the best cover artists were, how to source them, what's marketable. And you've probably heard this, Ryan, but like how a lot of indie authors get lumped with like the right to market mentality of like, oh, you're chasing a trend or whatever. And first of all,
in fairness, there are some who do it openly.
Yeah, but they're open about it. And the thing is, we've talked about that's also a thing in traditional. And
same
right
as Twitters. Yeah.
Particularly, it's happening in the SFF space where I've always found it a little effed up that criticism was labeled on indies who are trying to make a living, regardless of how they're doing it, as long as they're doing it ethically.
Do you think it's a bit strange, Ronnie, that after the last year that there seems to be a lot of traditionally published Dragon Rider books coming out soon?
No, a lot of romantasy.
Maybe because
the big one.
But like Dragon Riders and romantasy exploded on the indie scene over the last 2 years, and now that is all that is coming out next year.
And that's where I was going with this.
I've seen a lot of romantasy indie authors who got picked up by traditional publishers and are republishing the books.
And that's where I'm kind of going with this. The idea that the criticisms that were put unfairly on indie also exist traditional. That in my experience of what I'm reading, and this might come off as controversial, I'm actually finding more interesting stuff that's new, avant-garde, and whatever in indie than traditional. Also watching behind the scenes and people talk and deals that I'm seeing getting made. There's a lot more trend chasing happening right now in traditional.
It's kind of like in American football terms, though. It's like a linebacker like trying to turn as quick as a running back. Like as in indie, people can chase trends because you can pivot so quickly. In trad, they chase a trend that is gone 2 years later.
But also, here's the thing, Ryan, I think indie is more likely to set trends than it is to chase trends as well.
It's because we can pivot so quick.
Exactly.
But also, traditional has the money to throw behind the advances to pull those people. But the thing is, they've already committed certain amounts of money to other people with ongoing series and stuff like that. That promotion, that trend chasing always has consequences. It's good for the people who are getting it, and they do deserve that. But it's a very nebulous, like the best way I should say it, because like trying to be polite is, a very well-renowned writer and writing instructor, David Farland, who's been credited.
You're not ugly to everyone.
By Brandon Sanderson, as having taught him or influenced him, once said that the writing world traditionally is not unlike Hollywood. And the longer I'm in it, I'm starting to see that. And I think that could have a lot of negative impact, particularly on indies going traditional for the first time and sort of thinking they know what to be aware of, even if they get like a big advance that doesn't correlate to success. Like I don't think
I know a lot of people who've gone and had positive experiences.
Exactly.
They might have earned big advances, but their whole world's been flipped.
And that's what I was getting. I don't want to name names because the person's a genuinely lovely person, and they are successful, thankfully, very much so in indie. And they have continued to remain so off that one series. But they got a massive, like you could buy a house advance. Like it was. And usually that does correlate to a certain amount of support, and that series was tossed out to die. Like it was just DOA for the books. Shit. And it is very unfortunate because, again, as MJ brought up, and then I alluded to there are other contractual issues that go with that. Like, what can you write? What can you not sell? All those things. And if you kind of go into going like, oh, well, it's a great big advance, it's a series, a flop, whatever, I'll go right and do other indie stuff, you may not be able to. Like you might be like contractually like locked down in other ways. Like, oh, you can't have an SFF that competes with this. And you're like, well, that's a very nebulous term. What does compete mean? And the publisher will go, well, whatever we say it means. It's like that.
And that's something that like MJ, like going hybrid is you need to be, I mean, you're already aware of it, but just like the contractual confinement that certain things like non-compete can
and I've heard a lot of indies going like, oh, I'd fight that. I'm like, good luck, because I know people with massive agents. Like she said, it's a give and take, and this goes back to what Ryan talked about too. Be willing to walk away, but there's a lot of expectations that don't get talked about.
Remember my rule of fuck that.
Suck a dick.
Yeah, but a lot of people aren't given that information. They're given like secondhand rumor or talked about.
Yeah, those
contracts can get very gnarly, and there are certain sections that can go back and re-amend what you think you sorted out somewhere else. I know of a long time, at least 20 years, definitely, New York Times bestselling traditional author who's been going hybrid. And in some of their contracts, they've gone like, oh, yeah, I'll cross this out and edit it. And they'll go, cool. And then they get the contract back and it's fixed, but it's like added in somewhere else. And they're like, well, that's interesting. Is that just a mistake? They're being very polite about it, obviously calling a publisher out going, that must be a mistake because we canceled that out. And it's in a new part of the contract and it's worded a little differently, but it's the same thing. And I understand this is painting publishers in a very negative light, but this is something that does happen.
But we also have to think like these are corporations.
These are corporations, and we recently saw the publishing page. I probably just nuked my career. I swear to God, someone's going to watch this and goes like, "Yeah, fuck that guy."
No, well, because here's the thing: like the engine of traditional publishing is really sometimes difficult to work with, but every single person that I've worked with at my publishing houses, they're so delightful.
The corporation is
but there is a legal department, though.
That's exactly the thing that the point that I was trying to make. It's not that I'm having a poor time with any particular people or whatever. I love everyone that I've worked with.
Yeah.
They love books, but
it's
just the system. They're working within something that is slow and old.
Look, the reality is, and this is like. But this is probably more negative for me than just from you. And obviously, sometimes it comes across worse because I'm Indian, I'm not trad. But like the reality is the entire industry, the entire publishing industry that is particularly trad because of the way it works, is dependent on your fear. It's dependent on your fear of not achieving your dream and thinking that they can do whatever they want in a contract because you're scared that if you walk away, you won't get what you want. And they make it dependent on that, where the reality is the whole industry does not exist without authors.
Without you.
But the problem is when your fear overrules that, and the issue is there'll always be people that happens to, who do walk away and they don't get what they want. But there's infinitely more people, or at least the same number of people, who don't walk away and end up in a position they never wanted. And it's just one of those things that, like I said at the very start of this whole thing, is that for authors, indie and trad should be working together. It should be synergistic in that the existence of indie gives those authors an ability to maybe have a shield against that fear because they have another path to go down. It's not if I piss off this publisher, my career's tanked. It's if I piss off this publisher, I'm going to have to walk a different path. But thankfully, there are paths there now. And that's
also something
that's the thing.
That's also something that I've learned doing this podcast is like, even before MJ came on, I would have panels with 3-4 authors coming together, and I would get indie authors coming on the same panel with trad authors. And what I started to realize is like, there is so much, at least within like our SFF space in this community, there is a lot of mutual respect from all sides in the author sphere. Like the authors themselves have so much respect for one another, and there's so much genuine compassion between like someone who's like a New York Times bestseller, trad pub, big success, talking to an indie author.
That's my story, right?
And having so much admiration, regardless of the fact of this is what the sort of like mathematical comparison could be.
The only time,
but it doesn't equate to how we emote with each other and how we share and how we act as human beings and as a community.
Only time I've seen it come out in the negative sense is when I've seen it in places where a natural defense mechanism for indie authors who are doing well is to talk about money. All right. And the reason it's there is because traditional author legitimacy is never challenged, whereas indie author legitimacy is challenged frequently. In that you aren't a real author, you aren't a real writer, and that challenge is there. So the first most solid pillar for an indie author who's doing well to stand on, to hold themselves up, is money. And it comes up, and that's the only time where it can become a little bit like combative. But in general, everything I've seen, like it's huge amount of respect for authors to have other authors, people who are living their dream, people who want to help other people live their dream. Like when I've talked to other authors, I was talking to Ronnie when I was over Dragon Con and guys over in the UK and stuff, and whether it's indie to indie, trad to indie, it's always about how one of them can uplift themselves. What can we do? What's next? Like I'm in a trad deal and it's shit and I'm doing that. It's like, look, you're not alone, and you have options. You can do things. Don't feel like you're cornered. And then it could have like, on the other side, you have trad authors, and they mightn't even be doing it consciously, but legitimizing indies in their own mind by treating them like authors. And that's the inferiority that happens there, is that indie authors, not all indie authors, obviously, but we're coming out of a sphere. It's a lot better now because of the state of publishing, but are coming in with this, even if it's not true, but a perceived thing in the back of their head that people are constantly challenging their legitimacy as a real author. And it's like with anything. It's like if you can walk through, like, now MJ and Ronnie particularly know, because they're both gym rats. You know, you can have these days where you go out and you go, I feel great. And someone go, you know what, you're looking really good today. You're looking really strong today. You know, you're looking like really, really good. And then 50 people can say that. One person calls you fat and your day is done. And that's what you fixate on.
To imposter syndrome in the gym, body dysmorphia for a lot of gym goers. Yeah. It's a huge thing.
That's what I mean.
I think in like the author sphere, there's so much like creator and sort of like professional imposter syndrome too. It's like someone could call you like, you know, you're a shit author. You get that, you look at that 1-star review and that ruins your whole fucking day, despite the fact that there's like maybe 3 or 4, 5 for 4-star reviews that came in that same day, you know, but there's so many opportunities, even for me, like before I've even published my first novel, where I've gone over so many hurdles of imposter syndrome of like, I'm not good enough. Why would anyone want to read this? But then it's like you kind of you convince yourself that that's bullshit again and again and again and again and again and again.
I think I've told this one a little bit before, and I actually said it at my wedding when I was thanking my best man. But I don't know if you've heard it before, but 5 days before I launched Blood and Fire, I got an email from an ARC reader who basically told me that my book was trash and it wasn't suitable to go out into the world, and that I was doing myself damage by releasing the book. And it was a big email, all right? And it was like, I had a dark day. And like, I was one conversation around from never launching a Blood and Fire. And so if I hadn't of, obviously none of this would happen. We wouldn't be talking on this right now. I wouldn't have published anything. I got that email and it was genuinely like a knife in. This was like, I'm very sorry, but this just is not up to standard to be read by people. And, you know, I went around, I went for a walk and I called my friend and we just went for a walk for like 6 hours and we just had a big talk about it. And I came back and I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'm launching the book. And that was that big difference, is even before I published, all it took was one person to email, because my confidence in writing was so low because I'd never done it. I'd never published. I was so vulnerable that it just took one person and I was seconds from being completely fragmented in what to do. So like those hurdles are always there. Like it's insane.
Now you know why my Twitter feed is all that kind of motivating shit, because being indie, I saw, no, in a legit sense, I've seen so many writers who are about to quit. Like my entire indie career was uplifting other indies and then them doing it back for me. And now some of them have, go ahead.
I was only going to say, because you'll like this. I think my mom was like, I was talking to you over at DragonCon. She was like, R.R. Virdi, is that guy who's always posting inspirational tweets? And it's always like, you're having a bad day. You're having a bad day. You're having a bad day. And Ronnie's like, you are an onion and all of your layers are important.
But I've seen authors though, like, and people have this weird misconception of what the indie author is. One is a working mom, and she turned just to get her love of books out, and some started earning money. And in between her career, she worked with, unfortunately, a indie publisher who didn't have her best interest at heart and tanked it. She was really low, and it's taken years, but now she's back at a point where she's actually providing for her family just as an indie author. But thing she's needed, and sometimes we all do constantly, and she's admitted, is just the motivation, because when you go through the life shit, it's just like you can't bad review one day, a lot of bad reviews, or money dries up because something else, you don't feel like there's a way to keep going and getting that back, right? Like we talked about, dedication is important, but one of the easiest ways to stay dedicated is at least motivation, because motivation doesn't always turn into inspiration, but it could be just enough to go, F it, I'll do it again, like just to get the work done. And that's a kind of motivation too.
That's what we were talking about earlier, and I was saying dedication over motivation and inspiration. I actually said inspiration, not motivation, but it's the same thing, in that like motivation, you're dependent on an external source. And it's one of the hardest things to develop, is learning to not be motivated.
Motivation.
Exactly, 100%. So like dedication can be inspired by that motivation. So like, you know, you'll sit there and if you're dedicated, what'll happen is you're dedicated and eventually you can start producing consistently. And then some days you get like this super stack where motivation jumps on top of it, then you're inspired and you're just fucking
you have like a
writing shit
6,000,
like crazy.
8,000, 12,000 word day. Yeah.
Yeah, but then the really important thing for me, the thing that allows me to keep publishing, is the next day when that inspiration is gone, I still sit there and I make sure I get something down. Because I know a lot of people who might have those days, a 10,000 word day, and then they don't write for 2 weeks. And then like a 7,000 word day, and they don't write for 2 weeks. And although all words are important for getting them down, the difference is that if you have a couple of those, you might write like you get like 30,000 words done in the month over that long term. Whereas if you're writing 2,000 words a day, every day, that's 60,000 words for the month. But that's obviously you don't want to be writing weekends too. But you're consistently able to turn out like 45, 50,000 words while keeping all of your weekends. And it's something you have to build towards. And it takes time, and it takes hard work, and it takes habit and routine.
Habits. Yeah.
It's something that motivation and inspiration can't give you. But what motivation and inspiration for me is like augmentations. If we're talking about an RPG, they're the stat boosters you pick up as you're going.
Yeah, or if you're Mario, it's like all the
mushrooms.
Jump up and get that mushroom, get that fire flower.
And we're back full circle with mushrooms.
Yeah, man.
Oh my god, you made me think when we were at DragonCon, they had these like sexual innuendo shorts. All right, no.
Oh, I saw those.
Yeah, so I got Amy a pair that just says "You're precious" on one ass cheek, like with Lord of the Rings, with the One Ring stripped around it. And I didn't get one that was really funny, but she wears that one.
You didn't get one for me.
I wanted to, but
Ronnie needs that for his grind, man.
There was another one.
Precious baby.
That said "Speak friend and enter," and I was like, she'd not wear that. But there was one that said, "Are you Mario?" Because
there's definitely someone out there. If you're trying to hook up with them and you just said like melon, and they're just like, all right, let's go.
I know some of those
fucking
people, so yeah.
Drop trow and just go.
There was one with Mario and the mushroom, and it was like, "Are you Mario? Because you get my one up." Or let's see who gets this one. There was one that had the Stark, like House Stark symbol, and it just said, "Just call me Winter."
Oh God.
Because I'm coming.
Wow.
Yeah, I think we all got that when you said that.
I was never not going to finish it.
He was.
On that ecstatic note, I think we'll wrap this up.
What are you talking about? This is
the climax.
This very, very chaotic and wonderful episode.
If 3 people have survived to this end of this time in the episode, you are special. I do think we should
honestly,
probably
Ryan, funny enough, like when Ryan comes,
oh God,
people tend to watch that more than a lot of other like live streams or whatever. It's just like, I think the casual banter and the honesty and the
accent
that always resonates though. It does. Like Ryan and I, that's what we did at DragonCon most. I think
we stayed up till like 4 a.m. and
just talking
it was
talking about life and stuff. But that was it. Did.
It was one of the only times I've spent that much time in a bar without getting drunk, and we just stayed up talking. And that was it. Till 4 a.m. sitting in a chair in the West End, just talking about life, talking about publishing, talking about craft, about books. I think that was one of the things that really made the conventions for me, because I'd never been to conventions before. And it's the idea that writing is such an exercise in isolation, it's such an isolating craft. Especially just you don't get to talk to your colleagues about what you're doing, about the craft, about everything to do with writing in the industry. So going to something like that and actually talking to someone who is thinking the same way you are, who is in the same situation you are, and maybe you've had some trials and tribulations that make you feel like you're not succeeding or that you're doing something wrong, and you talk to someone else, they're like, "Oh no, bitch, that's the standard. That is how that works." And Ronnie did say that to me. He said, "No, bitch, that is the standard." But that's a really important thing.
That's when you fall in love.
Yeah, but actually, even Amy, all right.
This is like I'm gonna buy you some erotic underwear. And
oh God,
but
they're shorts. They're shorts. Adrian,
you guys are really jonesing for me to have an OnlyFans. I swear.
This is the thing for me about
let's get more leg booty shorts and let's get the grind going, man. Let's get it.
They had some serious booty shorts.
Oh man, I need to start hitting leg day a lot more if I'm doing that.
Dude, just go hard on leg day and get some booty shorts.
We'll just get a caricature artist to do the sketches because they can just emphasize booty. It's fine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. Life hack. Who needs the gym? Just have all your pictures be caricatures.
I totally agree. It's like doing this podcast, like I've realized how many people have shared experiences, and the fact is like a lot of people are just really open. It's like they want to talk, they want to share their love about writing, they want to share their love about craft and about books, and a lot of them just have information and experiences that they are happy to share with other people out there. So hopefully it's like just by listening to a podcast like this that people get some glimpse into like
behind the curtain
what it's like to be an author, and the fact that it's like shit's not all rosy, you know?
Oh shit, no.
It is fucking hard, and
but so are a lot of things that aren't writing. So
exactly.
It's the way, life is difficult. It's the way like people always say, the old adage is like, oh, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. That is such horseshit. It's such horseshit. You will work 3 times more, 3 times as hard, and be 3 times more stressed, but you'll be okay with it.
Yes.
And that's the difference.
Just rewarding.
It's like that Buddhist ideology of choose the suffering you're okay with.
Yeah. But I think even what we were saying there about that community and about how important it is to like get to meet the people and talk to the people about stuff. And it was really interesting, like when I came back from the States and I was talking to Amy, and obviously like when I go away, because I'm in New Zealand, I go away for a while. So I'm away for like 3 or 4 weeks at least. And, you know, she finds that very hard. And I find that very hard. I'm away from home for 3 or 4 weeks. Like when we went to Dragon Con there in the UK, we only got married in June. So, you know, I was away pretty quickly afterwards. And it's one of those things we had the conversation about. And she was kind of like, yeah, but like I get it though. Because it's not even going to sell books. It's going to sit down and meet the people in real life that you have a connection with about the thing that you love. And she was like, if you didn't do that, you would drive me crazy. Like, you need to go and do these things so that you're manageable for the rest of the year.
It was so nice for me to be able to, like, one of the coolest things this year was, cool, I started this podcast I like kind of revamped the podcast with MJ, but then it's like, I fucking met her in person in June.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. And I met Crystal Matar and like a bunch of authors in Vancouver.
Oh, you did the whole Canada thing that I was really jealous of.
Yeah. Yeah, like me and my son just like lone wolf and cubbed it through Canada. It was great.
I love that you're using that reference now that after you read that series.
No, I was like, I can't get it out of my head, man. It's like he's my little warrior.
See, if I didn't think there was another place for me to be jealous of, I'm now jealous of Canada too, because like in New Zealand, like all these authors that I know are all like American or Canadian or in the UK, and so like there's these 3 little hubs that I'm not a part of, and everyone meets up, and I'm so jealous.
Yeah, but that's why
there's some New Zealand writers.
That's why I'm gonna go to Glasgow next year, because it's like I want to meet the people.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I want to like spend time, because
we're trying to convince Ronnie to go.
Are just cool nerds. You know,
Ronnie's gonna room with me. I've already been sending him like Airbnbs and shit.
Did you show him the one you found?
Andrea Stewart was just like, you got to come to. Also, it's just like everybody wants me to go to Glasgow so bad, and part of me is just like, I'm not against it at all. I just like the workload. I told you all behind the scenes. I'm like, I committed to so many projects.
Yeah.
We'll
you know how many erotic pornos Ronnie's had to write to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
That's under his pen name. We don't talk about that.
or grinding.
R.R. grinding.
No, it's IR grinding.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh my god.
Or you are.
Anyone out there wants to write a grinding book.
Oh god.
There you go. We've just made the perfect pen.
But I've done multiple things to be like, Ronnie, we're gonna do it. We're gonna go like take mushrooms and just like fuck off into the moors for a while.
Did this just float over our head? Has Ronnie actually been writing these books? Is R.R. Virdi's School of Grinding actually a series already?
No. If it was, I'd probably be making even more money though, because that is a lot of money.
Ronnie, it's not the first binding; it's the first grinding. Let's be serious.
The first grinding. No, that could be. Oh my gosh, that's like mine is thick.
There are 3 grindings all men should know.
There are 10 grindings. Come on, Ryan.
Hold on. School of Grinding.
I've got to go read the Kama Sutra now, don't I?
Holy shit!
I gotta get this.
It's for research.
My book tower fell.
Oh.
It's not.
Oh,
I do.
I didn't know you had a special edition. Wow.
Yeah, I do. See, this is the thing, all right? So I've been like, because I've been so overloaded with stuff, I haven't posted a lot of stuff. But like, I have like books from like basically everyone, like all of the Kickstarters. I have like Ben Galley's Kickstarter and Janice Andrews, Jay Andrews Kickstarters and all here, and I have like all of them, and like, all my Shackles books and stuff. But I never get the chance to like post them, so like I'm not like supporting them that way. But like I get all of them.
No, but we're
actually to a stage that I'm trying to put shelves up here, and I haven't had the chance yet. But I have so many of the books that I've had to come up with a way to drill threaded rod into the studs to hold the shelves because of the amount of books. They're currently just stacked up all here beside me. That's why when I got this, I knocked over a tower of books.
I mean, Ronnie's grind is thick, so.
This is signed by Ronnie, number 993.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Hell yeah.
Hopefully there will be a second one for book 2.
Yeah.
We can talk about all that afterwards.
And Ronnie sent me the cover, and it's fucking
the second grinding.
So good. The second grinding.
I am so tempted. Like,
the Horrors of Midnight.
Oh, wow. You know, damn.
There you go.
There's like a fantasy, like smutty pen name. I know.
Yeah, and then Ryan's series is the Bound and the Bondaged.
No. Actually, we've done this. Zach Argyle
Bound and Broken would still work.
That's what I was going to say. So we've done this, and it's still called The Bound and the Broken. And I believe he just changed the first book's title to Of Blood and Boning.
Right. You don't
Vampire
want blood
erotic.
When you're boning,
it depends on the people. I mean, you haven't seen those werewolves.
Depends how hard you bite, but.
Did you say depends how hard you bite?
Depends.
I heard
you definitely said depends. When you listen back, you said depends.
Look, you all are putting dirty, horrible thoughts into my mind, and you're all going to hell.
I think what we're learning here is those thoughts were there, and unfortunately, they're coming out.
We're getting a little unraveled, so I'm going to wrap things up here.
Oh, this is still recording, isn't it?
Of course it is. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to ask each of you. Okay. Tell me one thing that you're looking forward to next year, and then let everyone know what you're working on, what's coming out, or if you just want to promote your stuff. So, MJ, go first.
Yeah. I am looking forward to it no longer being 2023. I am currently working on I'm working on a bunch of stuff. I actually just started something today that I'm like having a super fun time with, that is like a murder mystery story that is way outside of what I normally do, which is exciting and fun. If you want to hang out with me on the internet, you can find me on all the socials at MJ Kuhn Books, and then my website is mjkuhn.com. And I have a free novelette on there if you sign up for my email list. So go get your free shit. That's all.
Free shit.
The changes in pitch and key and volume there were, I don't know.
I don't know. I got to keep everyone on their toes, man.
2023 has been a fucked up year.
It has.
La, la, la. All right, Ryan, what about you, bud?
What about me?
I don't know.
Sweet. Yeah, no, 2024, I'm looking forward to a lot. I'm looking forward to hopefully, I'm still slated to get book 4 out in 2024, which would be amazing. I have 1 or 2 or 3 secret projects that should all be coming out in 2024, so that could be cool. There's so much. I'm looking forward to a lot. I'm still nervous and worried about stuff, like anything. Will I be able to get everything I need to get done? Like, I think if there was more than 24 hours in a day, it would be great. I would use them. But yeah, 2024 has a lot going on, hopefully. So I'm excited. And you can find me by Googling my name. And that's, yeah.
Yeah. Go check out
the website. I keep saying this. I probably said this about 100 times on different interviews, but it was like my number one thing was that I went to my mom one day and I was like, hey, mom, Google me. And like, it just comes up. And I was like, well, it's all first, my website and everything. And I was like, literally, if you just Google my name out of like 8 billion people in the world, I'm the first thing that comes up. And I was like, that's it. Then we're talking about small wins. We're talking about small wins. MJ, if you type in MJ Kuhn, all right, into Google, there are 8 billion people in the world and you're what comes up. That's a fucking win.
Small
All right, I'm
victories,
going to get
man.
my little bottle of
Go
Prosecco.
get that Prosecco. Yeah, girl.
Well done, Prosecco.
Same
Let's
mindset.
go.
You get it, Grandma Mallory. Mallory.
Mullery. Grandma
Mullery.
Mullery. Go get it, girl.
I like it. Close enough.
Hey, look.
Awesome. Ronnie, what about you?
It.
Oh,
Think you
I think you're
muted
muted.
yourself.
I've got book two
Or
coming
this
up.
is when the shrooms really kicked in.
Oh my god.
I've got book 2 of Tales of Tremaine coming out next year. I've got what the
is
hell?
that?
You okay?
Is someone trying to break into your room?
his house is haunted.
Does he
They're
have
whites.
someone in
They're
chains in the closet? Like, that is what that sounded like, right? There was chains clinking there.
Yeah, that's that was very loud. Oh,
I actually, because
Okay.
MJ was doing this, she was like that. I actually thought she was slamming something. And I was like, how rude.
So rude, MJ.
It's me.
All right,
I
well-
like to try to just steal everyone's thunder.
Yeah. While Ronnie's off dealing with his hostage or whatever, I am looking forward to debuting in 2024. It's going to be fucking wild, but I'm very excited. So, Mushroom Blues.
So there
in
was a
March.
small emergency with somebody, so we might have to go get somebody looked at. But
Oh,
yeah, book 2's coming out next year. That's pretty much the big one. I kind of actually have to go.
yeah.
Okay.
Fair.
Yeah, no worries, buddy. Yeah. Thank you so much, Ronnie.
Love you, Ronnie.
Love you, buddy. Okay, so Ronnie's got book 2 in the Tales of Tremaine coming out, sequel to the first grinding. It's going to be great. And yeah, so you can find him, Google him, R.R. Virdi.
I
He's the first
legitimately
one
think that we could see a headline of,
yeah,
international best-selling author chains someone in dungeon.
yeah.
That's. I genuinely thought he was going to sit down and go, someone escaped.
Yeah.
Someone escaped.
They got out.
Oh, Ronnie, hello, Ronnie.
Yeah, so I'm going to have a cover reveal in January. I'm going to be kicking off a bunch of stuff.
It's a beautiful
so
cover.
People can, Felix
Super cool
Ortiz.
cover. You guys are
Yeah,
not ready.
The cover is
Oh.
exactly what we were talking about. This whole episode's a fucking tangent, but the cover is what we were talking about ages ago when we were saying it's a difference between like beautiful art and like beautiful cover art. How certain art might be beautiful but doesn't fit it, but then also the typography on your one is like crisp. Like it just looked really nice.
Like
you showed me that, and I was like, oh, Adrian came to play. Like this
Hell
is
yeah.
Fuck around, man.
nice.
Yeah. But it's like not just like the cover. I've got so much cool promo stuff in the works, like a little like virtual book tour.
That's very
so
cool.
I'm gonna be like annoying the fuck out of all you for like January, February, March. And,
So same as 2023.
Yeah. I mean, like I've been annoying the fuck out of everyone for this whole year, just being on this podcast or whatever. But if you're listening and
Hey guys,
if
wanna
you
be friends?
wanna support my work, you can support me when I debut in 2024. And I'm just really
I'm actually really looking forward to it.
thankful for all of the listeners, for all of the authors who have come on the podcast as guests, for MJ, for being the chewy to my tomato, whatever the fuck.
Oh,
Ryan
God.
said earlier.
Chewy tomatoes, yeah.
Being a chewy tomato.
Which sounds awful.
Such
but
a chewy tomato.
So chewy. I'm really excited to pimp your book at the beginning, though, of the
the
episodes,
Joker to my
Adrian.
Commander Shepard. I like that. I mean,
that
like
one too.
I'll be sending you a physical copy, so you can hold it up and you can do the promo for me as I do.
Oh,
the promo
I'm
for
going
you.
to. You have
Yeah.
no idea how annoying
Yeah.
I'm going to be about this.
And it's
In
like,
the best way, I hope.
It'll be like I can't wait to hear MJ's version of heists, hatchets, and whores from Mushroom Blues. We'll see how it turns
Honestly,
out.
if that is the marketing, I am not surprised it gets compared to Sergio Mas.
It's Adrian's marketing for
That's
it.
my marketing. My marketing is like such a scattershot of like.
Like, do you like Sergio
I
Mas?
just fucking
Do you want heists as well?
Yeah.
But
I-
also none of the sex.
Yeah.
Great.
But MJ,
There's
I
whores.
literally wing it every single episode that when I pimp your book. Like I have nothing prepared.
I love it, and I'm
I
here
just go
for it.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you to all the listeners. Thank you to all the amazing guests we've had. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Ronnie, for coming on and closing out this shit show of a year with us. It's been fun.
This went on such a tangent.
Wild.
I kind of forgot this was like the end of year thing.
Yeah. But that's how it is. That's why I invited you and Ronnie.
We were ready for that.
We were just going to have a shoot in the shit kind of conversation. And I just really appreciate that. You two are the best. And MJ, you're the best too. Thank you.
You're the best.
I appreciate you guys. So,
we're all the best.
You're all the best. Just this hot mess of a year and we're wrapping this shit up.
Do the thumbs up, Ryan.
Yeah.
Every time I do it, I try and stay as still as possible so it looks like it's still picture framed me. Like
yeah,
right. Like it's like a.
Aw.
It really does look like a still picture, though. I've thought it has been a couple times.
This is the background to that Dido song with Eminem.
Just getting super emo.
Yeah.
Oh my god, MJ, we need to get one of these cameras so we can do that.
I'm not even.
I know, right?
It'd be so distracting.
You can just level up our whole podcasting game.
So amateur.
Next year, 2024, baby, we're coming with the emojis.
We're leveling it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking background graphics and shit. We got this. All right. You can follow SFF Addicts on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, all that shit at sffaddictspod. You can follow me at Adrian M. Gibson. Stay tuned for all kinds of mushroom blues stuff. You can check out my website. You can hit me up on Twitter or Instagram or wherever. MJ, you already mentioned where people can find you. Ryan, you did too. So that is it for this episode in 2023. Thank you all so much for listening and supporting the show this year. It means a lot to us. Now, keep reading, keep imagining, and we'll see you next year on SFF Addicts.